Do you struggle to find the right words when speaking English? Is it impossible for you to remember new words and then use them in conversation? In this video, I'll show you the best vocabulary learning strategies so that you never have to forget a word ever again. By the end of this video, you'll have practical techniques to expand your vocabulary quickly and remember new words effectively. Stick around until the end of the video to hear a bonus vocabulary learning tip that you may not have thought of before, but can completely change the way you learn new words. Let's get started then with tip number 1. My first tip to improve your vocabulary is to read actively. Reading in English is one of the best ways to acquire and learn new vocabulary because you will see them in a context, which will make them easier to remember. You can read anything that interests you, so this could be blog posts, news articles, or even short stories. It doesn't matter what you read as long as you read regularly. If you're not sure where to start, why not begin with a graded reader? Graded readers are often common stories that you may already know, but the language has been set at a particular level. You can find graded readers from beginner all the way to advanced level. And a good tip for how to know if the book is at the right level for you, you should be able to understand about 70%. If you can understand every single word, it may not be challenging enough and may not give you the opportunity to learn. If you understand very few words and sentences in the book, it's probably too high a level for you. So aim for about that 70% of comprehension to know if the book is a good level for you. As you read, circle or highlight words that you don't understand. When you finish the chapter, you can come back to the words. Try to infer or guess the meaning of the words by using the context of the sentence. And if you really don't know, you can look it up in a dictionary. Now remember to always keep a record of the new words that you see when you're reading. And that brings me on to top tip number 2, which is to keep a vocabulary journal or notebook. This is a place where you keep all of the new words and phrases that you learn in a nice central location so that you can easily review them whenever you want. Divide each page into sections so that you include the word, the meaning, maybe a direct translation to your language, other words that are associated with this word or perhaps collocations, words that go together, and an example sentence. Here's a pro tip for really making these words stick in your mind. Review your lists regularly. And that brings me on to top tip number 3, which is to use apps and flashcards to review new vocabulary. Remember, just seeing a word and writing it down and looking at it once is not enough to help you remember it and be able to use it in conversation. We actually need to encounter the same word several times until we can actually internalize it, memorize the word, and be able to use it in conversation. So, how can you use apps and flashcards to review vocabulary? Well, flashcards are easy. All you have to do is write down your word on one side of the card, and on the other side of the card can be your definition and example sentence. Test yourself by looking at the word and trying to come up with the definition without looking. Then you can turn over the card and check. Or you can do it the other way around. Read the definition and try to see if you can remember the word. Now, if you're more interested in using technology to review your vocabulary, you can use an app like Quizlet or Memrise. These apps allow you to keep a record of all the words that you learn, and then you can review them with fun games and activities. The beauty of these apps is that they are on your phone. The next time you pick up your phone and you're tempted to look at social media, instead you can open your vocabulary learning app and spend 10 or 15 minutes reviewing words. It will be a much better use of your time, I promise. If you're enjoying this video and finding these tips useful, let me know by liking this video, subscribing to my channel, and putting a comment down below telling me what your favorite way to learn vocabulary is. Now let's continue with the next tip. I already talked about keeping a record of new words and writing an example sentence. Well, this brings me on to my next top tip for learning vocabulary, and that is to learn new words in context. It's much easier to understand the meaning of a word and remember it so you can use it again if you see how it's used in a sentence. So when you see a new word, look at how it's been used in that sentence. Can you see how it gives meaning to the other words around it? When you write it down in your vocabulary notebook, write it in your own sentence. Try to make it a personal example to you. Give the word some meaning. For example, imagine I've just learnt the word laundry and I've just written it down in my notebook. Now I want an example sentence in context to help me remember. How can I make the word laundry personal to me? My example sentence could be, when I was a child, I used to go round to my grandmother's house on a Friday night after school and help her do the laundry. Can you see how I've taken a memory that's personal to me and I've linked it to that word? Now, whenever I think of the word laundry, I'll immediately think of that memory, that context that I gave the word, and it will help me remember it. A great way to see how words and phrases are used in context is to watch TV shows, YouTube videos, movies, listen to podcasts, listen to songs. The more you expose yourself to English, the more vocabulary you will read and listen to in context. My next top tip to review and practice vocabulary to make it more memorable is to play games and activities with the words. I've already talked about apps like Quizlet and Memrise that make vocabulary learning into a game. Why not try crossword puzzles, word searches, or even a game of Scrabble? If you make the process of learning vocabulary fun and enjoyable, it will make those words easier to understand and remember. My next tip is a very important one, and that is to use the words that you learn. This means reviewing that list regularly and making an active effort to use the words and phrases that you've got in that list. For example, I've just learnt the word laundry. Can I find a way to get that word into my everyday conversation? Maybe I decide to start a conversation with a friend about tasks at home that they love or hate doing, and I can talk about my memory associated with my grandmother and doing laundry. There, I've really made an effort to use that word in everyday conversation. If you don't have anyone to talk to, why not keep a journal? The journal can either be one that you write in a notebook at the end of every day, or if you want to challenge yourself to improve and practice your speaking, then you can keep an audio journal where you record yourself speaking on your device. This can give you an opportunity to deliberately use words and phrases that you've learned throughout the week. So don't worry if you don't have a speaking partner, there's always ways to practice speaking by yourself. If you're looking for more ways to do that, I will link a video in the description below this one where I share my top tips for how to practice speaking without a partner. Finally, we're going to end with my bonus tip, the one that you've probably never thought of but can really change the way you learn vocabulary, and that is to learn word families. What do I mean by word families? Well, say for example you learn the word beautiful, which is an adjective. But what other word types are linked to the word beautiful? Well, we have the verb to beautify, we have the adverb beautifully, and we have the noun beauty. This is what I mean by word families. You've learnt one type or class of the word. Which others can you also learn? So this is something that you will keep a record of in that vocabulary journal. When you learn a new word, are there other types of words that are within the same family? If you do this, it's going to boost your vocabulary learning even more, because not only will you learn one word at a time, but you will learn the entire word family. What's your favourite way to learn and practice vocabulary? Share your ideas in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Now, once you've got the words, how do you actually make sure that you use them in the same way that a native speaker would? Well, I've got all the answers for you in this video right here.